Okay, so let's start our debate. Firstly, welcoming the first speaker of proposition.
Okay, so am I audible and visible to you?
Yes, you are.
Okay, wait, better. Okay, so my speech will like to start in three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up tomorrow to find your city's entire GPS network had been disabled. You know your address, but you realize you can't navigate the streets. You can't remember the routes because the most efficient technology took the skill from you. We have outsourced our most basic human capabilities, our memory, our navigation, our calculation to machines. We are here today to discuss the government's duty to prevent the atrophy of the human mind to ensure fundamental autonomy. So, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, my respected opponents, and the members of the House. Today, we proudly stand aside our proposition for the motion. This would require governments to discourage essential dependence on technologies that increase human efficiency. So, as the first speaker, I will begin by defining the key terms and scope of the debate. Then I will outline our team stance and present my own sustained arguments in support of our case. And our second speaker will continue by strengthening ourselves with further arguments, while also directly rebutting the main points raised by the opposition. Finally, a third speaker will deliver a summary speech, consolidating our team's case, weighing the impacts and showing you why the proposition ultimately wins today's debate. Now, let's just move to the definition first. So, we define essential dependence refers to a level of reliance where individuals or societies cannot reasonably function without a particular technology, such that losing access will significantly reduce the basic capability or autonomy, and technologies that increase human efficiency are system, software, or hardware designed to automate tasks, optimizes the processes, and significantly reduce the time, labor, or cognitive effort required to complete an activity. For example, GPS navigation, cloud-based data storage, complex algorithm trading platform, etc. And now for the stakeholders. The first key stakeholder is the individual citizen because they get increased autonomy and resilience. They lose some of the convenience provided by the total reliance on the most efficient technology. And next is the government and state because they assume the responsibility of implementing the policy but gain national security and societal stability by mitigating systemic risks. And next, last but not least, is the technology companies because they may face minor friction or complexity in system design but are incentivized to create a more resilient and diversified technological ecosystem. So our model is simple. We offer a world where risk management, not prohibition. We're not banning efficiency. We are mandating the resilience. The governments will use tech incentive for business that build low-tech backup system and for public education to maintain core human skills like map reading. This policy is an necessary insurance premium to safeguard our autonomy and protect society from catastrophic systemic failure. Now, let's move on to my substantive arguments. So my first argument is about how essential dependence is skill atrophy. We are trading the short-term convenience of a machine for the long-term cost of losing our fundamental human ability to think and function. So we argue that when we outsource our core human capabilities to hyper-efficient machine, we are engaging in a dangerous process of cognitive and pedagogical decline that ultimately renders citizens helpless and vulnerable. So our central point is this: we pursued a maximum efficiency is actively eroding our basic human resilience. So consider the connective cost. The widespread efficient reliance on tools like GPS has led to a documented loss of spatial reasoning and mental mapping skills. So the phenomenon is clearly seen by professional fields due to efficient system pilots and mariners who rely exclusively on GPS are now less capable of non electronic navigation. So when a season 4, whether due to a simple malfunction, a cyber attack, or the very real threat of the solar weather destroying satellites, these highly skilled professionals are suddenly rather less competent than their predecessors. So the efficient technology hasn't just helped with the skill, it's actually destroying it. It has replaced and then erased the original human capability. So this is the difference between having the fire extinguisher and forgetting how to start a fire. So when experts become essentially dependent on efficient automated tools, we observe automation complexity. So this is the documented tendency for human operator to become less vigilant and less engaged because the machine is doing the complex work. For example, when doctors rely entirely on sophisticated AI diagnostic tools, research shows that they can stop engaging their full diagnostic intuition. So when AI is wrong or when it misses a subtitle indication outside its programming, the moment a human must intervene, a human error rate increases because the fundamental skills have withered. We are creating systems that fail at the present moment when we need human critical thinking the most. So this is fundamentally about human agency. An autonomous citizen is the one who can reason, calculate, and navigate the world independent of fragile external system. If government policy allows the technological monoculture to develop that makes it essential dependence, we are creating a population that is increasingly vulnerable to both technical and failure and corporate exploitation. So if you cannot calculate your long terms, if you cannot read a map, you are not truly free, but you are putting yourself in a cage that guarded by the AI or or all of the technology. So the opposition will might say that is like the opposition might argue that it is an inefficient, but we rebut this directly. We're not banning the efficient technology. We are mandating the maintenance of the recent alternative. So the small investment required by our policy to teach children basic mental arithmetic to ensure policy reset and less tool in navigation. So it is not an inefficiency. It is an absolute vital insurance premium that ensures human capability remains that low tech floor beneath the entire societal structure. And our second argument is about efficiency is not resilience. Essential dependence creates vulnerable single points for a failure, turning the systemic collapse when the technology fails. So we contend that the pursuit of maximum efficiency fundamentally conflicts with the need for maximum resilience. So our central thesis is simple. A highly efficient system is often a highly brutal one. So, efficiency technologies drive centralization to consolidation. So, they encourage all sectors from finance to logistics to healthcare to rely on a shrinking number of proprietary software platforms. So, cloud server providers or technology protocols. So, when an entire society becomes essentially dependent on this full solution, and the disruption become a catastrophic systemic risk. So consider the drive for efficiency naturally foster a technological monoculture, a single dominant and sterilized solution. Monoculture are highly vulnerable, whether their agriculture crops are susceptible to a single bright or software system or susceptible to a single lines of malicious code. We're draining robust diversity or streamline vulnerability. So addressing the market will solve this. Actually, the opposition will argue this, but the market naturally the so we can say that this is a clear market failure. The market's power rewards for economies on scale, standardization, and network effects actively push the competition out and drive society toward these dangerous monopolies. So companies are incentive to choose the cheapest, most efficient platform, not the most resilient one. So only the governments, by discouraging essential dependence, can ensure the necessary friction to preserve reserve and resilience the backup system. So we urge you to affirm this motion and recognize what without government's action, the seductive pursuit of efficiency would inevitably lead to societal brittleness. So we argue that unfettered efficiency is fragility in disguise. The highest duty of our governments is to ensure the security and the basic autonomy of its citizens. When entire societies delegate their core functionality to technology over which they have diminishing control, they are trading short-term convenience for long-term disaster. So we ask you to stand with us to build a resilient society, a society that embraces innovation but refuses to let its citizens lose their fundamental ability to function. And that is the end of my speech. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for your great speech. I'm inviting the first speaker of opposition.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay, so I highly encourage viewers in this debate, and my speech is on 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this house asks for us to feel the very quality that helps us innovate. The things that we are already innovating this time. We are already making everything efficient. So the affirmative just want security. They don't want to take risks. But if we see on other facts of life that if we were that why do rich people stay rich while poor stay poor? Because the rich take risks. They take risks. They take risks. They learn to manage risks. The affirmative just wants to stay safe. They don't want over reliance. They don't want us to rely on technology. While us humans here, we innovate everything. We innovate everything that the reason why we innovate everything to become more advanced is because we have to rely on them. It's for the future generation to rely on them and innovate something better. The affirmative just wants security that will just wants security that's just hopeless. We 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 as a negative team, our stance in this motion here is to just is to just is to for the government to not to not discourage is for the government to not discourage essential dependence on technology that increases human efficiency. We already make a lot of technology that we already reliant on. Why choose why choose technologies that increase the human efficiency out of every single thing that we rely on in the beginning? We believe that efficiency is not a vulnerability to be discouraged, but the ethical way for global survival of the human race itself. So overall, we already saw that the first speaker putting the core arguments. They're already claiming in the first place why this is not safe. Why why putting essential dependence at risk is good. But we already rely on almost everything. So I like to prove why the first speaker's arguments were wrong first, and then put into my constructive arguments. Firstly, all progress implies new dependencies. While the first speaker of the affirmative team says that losing human cognizance it will hinder progress, we think that it implies new dependencies. All dependencies are already inefficient. We already rely on manual labor for farming, the online communication for communication, and human memory for complex calculation. So overall, these are not reliant enough, and we should switch so that we can increase human efficiency. Redundancy. It's the focus should be on resilience, not retreat. The affirmative thinks that by going to the new technology, they only think on the bad side. They only think of the harms. Well, there are numerous good sides. For example, technology in this world. If we were to stay safe and not invest on technologies, look where it ends. A lot of low income countries don't rely on technology that much, and they are poorer than most of the original countries. The affirmative might claim that these countries don't have technology to begin with. Most countries, most countries, such most countries in the world, such as Czechoslovakia, Lithuania, and Belarus, who choose not to depend on technology, and yet they're here, and yet countries who make technology to increase efficiency overall has better economies in this day, mostly being India, China, and the U.S. Dependence is a sign of progress. And finally, dependence is a sign of progress, not fragility. While the affirmative mainly focuses on the fragilence of this. The negative side rejects the premise that essential dependence is a societal vice that requires encouragement. We argue that essential dependence is simply the natural and necessity. Like I said in the beginning, we are already dependent on a lot of things in the first place. So I like to ask that why should we choose just this? Why should we already choose why should we just choose the fact that we depend on technology just so that we can get a better life in the beginning? So I like to put on some constructive arguments here.
Yo, I.
Yes, I may
Right,
accept.
so you said that in the first place, that this kind of essential technology already made our life easier and much better. But how is that? Because comparing to what our first speaker has said, she already talked about some consequences of having this essential technology and we being too dependent on it.
So I like to answer. That is the fact of security, not that is the fact of security, not human relying on itself. We have the choice to rely on it or be unreliant of it, and yet your team only discusses about the side where people get too over reliant on it. Your argument does not count here because you only discuss one side of the coin. You don't decide on the other side. So why should you only discuss one side where there is a lot of engineers, there is a lot of coders out there who don't rely on AI that and much and only use it as a just a personal assistant. The problem here is that we are unable to control AI. We some people just don't want to some people just let AI control them, let technologies control them, not themselves. So my first main argument. So my first main argument, efficient technologies enables us enables us to see enables us to get basic economic freedom. What I'm trying to say here is in man, we all some countries are not already having good technologies that increase our efficiency. And these countries remain poor. They rely on manpower. And manpower and unlike technologies, manpower is strictly limited. So these countries are also limitedly developed. For example, in the US, why are there so many wind turbines in the US? Because people use helicopters. More than $400 billion is invested into the renewable energy industry every year. Whereas in Vietnam, we only rely on manpower. People have to climb up with small ladders just so that they can build turbines. That's why it's just dangerous job, and we have less wind turbines than most countries in the world. So that is my main constructive argument. So secondly, the problem is regulation and security, not dependence. Just like I answered in the POI, we we have a main problem. The problem is regulation and security, not dependence. We de- most technology goes unregulated. So why should we control it and not control ourselves? So so overall, my and finally for my closing arguments, we need to address the cause, not the symptom. We are only seeing a part of the results and we are already thinking that it's already bad while we're not seeing the better side of it. The negative just seems to claim the negative side and just choose it as the argument, while we here see both sides of the coin and see a lot of countries in the world. We are already seeing our premises live in action, and it's already going well. While one side just discusses about while the affirmative team discusses about one side of the coin, we see a lot of advantages from this, and only a small fraction go grow to be bad of this. So overall, that's why you should vote for the negative team. Thank you.
Thank you for your really good speech. Now inviting the second speaker of proposition.
Yes, so let me set my timer first. Okay, so uh my speech will start at the countdown of 3, 2, 1. So we are building a house with beautiful temperate glass in efficient, transparent, and modern. But forget that glass, no matter how strong, can still shatter with just a factor. In fact, the efficiency that technology brings is hiding a deadly fragility. The problem is not bad technology, but light dependence. We are here today to argue that governments need to proactively reduce this risk. So my speech today will focus on two key areas. First, I will rebut the arguments you're likely to hear from the opposition bench. Second, I will extend our case exam examining the critical impact this dependence has on the fundamental autonomy and resilience of the state itself, a crucial aspect of the modern geopolitical landscape. So first moving to my rebuttal, as the first speaker of the negative team mentions about enable us to get basic economics. So so the opponents thought that technology enabled basic economics to function. We agree when things work smoothly, efficiency is high, but the argument ignored the core question of the motion. What happened when that dependency becomes essential and the technology fails? We are not talking about an hour-long internet outage. We are talking about essential dependencies to the point where losing access significantly reduced basic capabilities. So long-term economic stability is threatened by systemic risk. The economic efficiency it talk about its efficiency is ideal, crisis precondition, but by creating single points of failure, for example, a particular type of semiconductor chip or piece of global logistic software, we're putting the entire economy at risk. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the fragility of hyper efficient just-in-time supply chains. When supply chains break down due to technological and human disruption, economies don't just slow down, they cripple, leading to shortage of essential goods and social chaos. Long-term stability and resilience are more important than immediate efficiency. And lastly, he mentioned about why we don't try to fix the people like the community before fixing the system. So here in our affirmative work, we are trying to fixing the people by regulating them not to use a lot of AI to increase their capabilities. But you're just blamed that we are just told that there is all of the wrong for the system. But we are trying to fix our people that we are regulating them not to use a lot of AI. Moving
UI.
on. No, sorry. First, as the first speaker of my team has mentioned about loss of core skill, when people rely on technology to perform simple and complex tasks, they lose basic skill and the ability to think independently. And she also mentioned about efficiency is not resilience, maximizing efficiency by relying on specific technology, creating critical weakness, making the whole system vulnerable to collapse when a single part fails. Now moving on to my counter arguments. Firstly, about protecting human autonomy and cognitive capabilities, erosion of thinking skill. As humans become overly reliant on technology to make decisions or perform basic tasks. For example, AI assisted medical diagnosis or information search engines. Human critical thinking in independent problem solving and intuitional skill may gradually erode. Loss of control, like essential dependence, can lead to a loss of control over one's own life. But for some evidence, individuals who cannot function without a phone or internet connection will have a significant reduction of basic capabilities and autonomy. Ethical and responsible issue. When AI and algorithms make important decisions, the responsibility become blurred. Maintaining human involvement in important decision-making process is ethically and logically necessary. Reducing brain activity on MIT University study cited by NextGov suggests that students who use the property ChatGPT-4 to write papers show less consistent brainwave activity and cognitive function in key areas of the
UI.
brain over time. No, thank you. Arguments. Moving to my thesis number 2 about addressing market failures and promoting balance. Market failures. Free markets often prioritize immediate process and efficiency without considering the animal's originalities that come with dependency, such the risk of systemic crisis or long-term deterioration of public health. Regulatory role of government. Government has a legitimate role in intervening to protect the public interest and long-term stability by using incentives like tax incentive for backup technology, funding for education, rather than prohibition. Government can promote a healthy balance between technology, innovation, and social resilience, avoiding concentrations of power. Technology development often leads to concentration of power in the hands of a few large technology corporations, threatening democracy and people control. Government intervention have diversified choice and prevented technology monopolies, concentration of economic power. A small number of technology corporations like Big Tech now control much of the flow of information, cloud infrastructure, and global digital markets. This concentration of power threatens fair competition, user ability to control the data, or even democratic stability. So that is the end of my case. Thank you for listening.
Now, thank you for a great speech. Now, welcoming the second speaker of opposition.
May I have about 30 seconds?
Yes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Thank you. I will start my speech and we kind of 3, 2. Good evening, Madam Chair, respect educators and member of the opposition bench. The opposition team has spent the time asking us against backward, wondering about the small risks of success. They paint a dystopian picture of technology, but they have missed the fundamental point. The age of information is an age of suffering. The choice before the house is not between dependence and poor independence, and between necessary persistent dependence and current station. Madam Chair, I will dedicate the first half of my speech to analyze the publishing team's case. The argument regarding vulnerability are nothing more than a failure of risk management, and they claim that efficacy is not the sense are the fundamental misdemeanors of the human purchase. Once the opposition house of court is filled, I will enforce our commitment to the purpose society by defending the negative core pillars, committing in all powerful advocates. We are ready to fight for the future defense by protest, not fear. Let us look first to their primary claims. First, the opposition have tried to justify this unprecedented government intervention by claiming two things: that the market first and that they can promote a better alternative. We refute both claims entirely. First, refuting the addressing market failures, the opposition argues that the markets fail because it is surprised in the risk of catastrophe, the negative extremity of excessive dependence. We say this is a growth of the meagowness of the problem. The solution is regulation, not restriction. The failure is not in the affection of the technology. The failure is in the government regulations duty. If a utilities relies on one AI create and price risk, the solution is mandate is raised. It requires security, redundancy, and enforce intentions law to prevent dangerous monopolistic dependence. Second, the true cause of infancy. The biggest negative insanity is the cause of the current infancy. Our speaker provided that he's destroyed the economic surplus, the way need to fund every public good, from school to climate mitigation. The economic damage from forced infancy raises outweighs the speculative risk of a failure it can mitigate through the good policy. Second, we talk about promoting of an alternative system. The opposition wanted to promote an alternative system built on low-tech logism and mental skills. We argue that there is economically irresponsible and faces scale. What the alternative or intensity in so-called resilient alternative, local food network, low-tech communication model, labor inerrancy is expensive and insatiable to urban and low-income in pollution. Our third argument would provide that promoting passive influencing localism is an act of cruelty against the poor. The only way to deliver incentive goods to billions of people or families is through mass-scale efficiency. Now, they ask us, before I move on, I must directly answer the negative core question. What happens if that essential technology fails? Let's expect panic, but we answer with clarity. What happened in the short term? There is reason that proves the necessity of a motion. In the long term, structural that restores true silence. The pen proved the policy. Well, the suffering caused by the great failure is the proof that independence was too high. Almost trade the catastrophic nationwide risk of a single point of failure. Their word for manageable, likable disruption that compels us to build this back up over. Now, the opposition case proper because they conflict poor policy with poor technology. Let's now return to strong business case for the negative. First, on economic perspective, our first speaker provides that efficiency is the agent of policy and welfare. This efficiency generates the economic suffers that allow nations to afford hospitals, universities, and defense systems, which then point to global competitive and state policy. If a government active government and fancy are destroying their own capacity of government, when they cannot effectively manage a pandemic, nation defense or tackle climate change with artificial, data-driven and technology system. Second, on basic and economic freedom. Our first speaker demonstrates that in fantasy technology are the import of freedom. The ability to use digital communication to work remotely or accept application across continents is revelation increase in economic freedom and individual control over one's life. Now, Madam Chair, I now introduce a third and most crucial argument. Discovering this movement is not just economic foolish, it's an act of profound ethical harm. First, we claim that this current access of dependent artificial technologies is ethically harmful, as these tools are critical for the survival, accessibility, and efficiency of most vulnerable and disadvantaged population. Efficacy is the key to equality and disability. Technology like
Why?
automated nations, later mass product medicine and the same teacher interface dramatically reduce the cost and reduction friction of essential service for those with physical disability, chronic illness, or low income. This to respect the difference between suffering for survival and life opportunity. Already protecting time, so no reality. The motion violates fundamental ethical duty. It places an abstract ethical fear of non-dependence upon critical life-saving benefit of infancy. Now, Madam Chair, the negative is not afraid of independence. We are afraid of infancy that proposing government champion. We have shown that when this demand is the act of economic subsidy and fundamental denial of human freedom. The government job is not to subtract the tool of property, but to secure and regulate them because we refuse to trade our standard of life for ethnicity, security, and because we refuse to deny any vulnerable the means to their independence. We proudly ask to reject the motion. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for a great speech. Now, welcoming the third speaker of proposition.
Um, uh, so this is around 8 minutes, right? And I thought clarify that.
It's 8 minutes.
I meant to it was 4 minutes. Oh man.
Josh, can I have 30 seconds?
Yes.
Wait, wasn't it me? Oh yeah, I forgot.
third speaker proposition.
Yes, so wait. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
First of all, before I start my speech, my POI preference is verbally. I would only accept a POI if it is given verbally because I'm not going to pay attention to the chat. And please pay attention to the timer because I won't be accepting any, or let's just say ignoring it if it is in the protected time. So my speech is going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So, ladies and gentlemen, picture the panic when your phone dies. Not just the inconvenience, a genuine gut level void. No map, no contacts, no plan. That moment of helplessness isn't just a personal failing, it's a warning. We are engineering a world where that panic isn't just an exception, it is our default state. We're not just using the two. Well, I'm learning how to be human by using those two. So, the emotion or the action that being said that the government should be required to discourage essential dependence on technology that increase human efficiency is necessary. And today, as the affirmative team final speaker of constructive speech, I'm going to give out some rebuttals and so as the main clashes to point out why we actually have won this debate for today. So let me start by giving out some rebuttal to the opponent. First of all, they say that we aren't taking any risk, basically saying that we are selling the fear. This technology is a ladder for the human spirit, freeing the artist, empowering the disabled, and solving our biggest problem. And they say that we want to kick out that ladder away and leave us in the dark. However, a ladder that removes our ability is to climb is a cage, and they are basically supporting us in the cage. When the AI fails the artist, where does the inspiration go? When the system powering a wheelchair crashes, where does the freedom go? We're not kicking away the ladder, we're building a solid floor beneath it. So when the tech fails, as it always does, no one falls over. No one falls over, or let's say forever. And second of all, they say that the market will self-correct.
POI.
No. The risk of a catastrophe is overblown. Government intervention is the real danger. That's not optimism. It is a gamble with humans' life, and the house always win. The market didn't build a lifeboat for the Titanic because it's calculated that selling more tickets was more efficient than preparing for a disaster. That fate in the market is a fate that the very system by design prioritizes profit over reliance. It is this technology that leads to a single factory system, for example, running our food supply because it's cheaper. As the logic leaves us with no backup plan. We're not arguing for a strainholder on innovation. We're arguing for a mandatory or necessary lifeboat. This motion is that lifeboat. This policy is it. It is simple per the requirement that for our most essential system we build in a human fail-safe because
POI.
when their digital ship hits an iceberg, it won't be their spaceship that drowned, it will be our families. Just POI 15 seconds.
You gamble on respective risk of catastrophe, but are you willing to accept the uncertainty of increased poverty, food scarcity, and economic decline that will immediately result from the infancy your policy matters?
Well, the thing about economic decline or things that you have mentioned as the problem or first of all, is have already been solved by our team side. And secondly, let me make this clear. It is not like without the technology that we cannot do anything. Look, the motion here didn't say that we're going to ban all technology. It said that the technology essential dependence on the technology that increase the human efficiency. Basically, the technology that increase the human efficiency the most, we delete that. We still have other technology. And let's say this, unicity is kind of like something that we need for the work. And no, as you're not like the first speaker in your team say that it is all just like man-made. No, we don't really have to do that. It don't have to be encouraged for these essential dependence. We can still do that by ourselves. And for economic decline, no. As you can see in the past, it might it might just say be growing better than ever. You know, in the 90s and in the 20s, the technology be as big as now. No, but the economic flows, it rises and it doesn't decline. So yes, the problem here is already solved.
Follow up POI.
No. So next, the argument also say about we need this technology for economic growth again. There's a big problem that pandemics or climate change. Regulation destroy freedom and hurt our ability to manage crisis. However, they tell us this need of this system to fight pandemics and climate change. But what happens when the pandemic is a cyber virus that crashes to the very AI built to manage a biological one? What happens when the powers in a climate disaster that the digital system that control the water supply goes dark? This isn't about stopping progress and about ensuring our survival. You cannot find a hospital with the money you made from the system that when it fails, fills that hospital with patients. The true freedom isn't the convenience of a remote controlled life. It is the security of knowing when the screen goes black, your water still flow and your lights still work, and your community still know how to come together and save itself. We're not building a smarter prison, we're defending the last patch of soil ground. Now, next, I'd like to provide the three clashes. First of all, is the forgetting. We're outsourcing our inner voice. This is about the quiet inside of our own head, the mechanism of connected disease. We don't remember phone number. We don't navigate cities. We don't sit in boredom that spark a real idea. We're handing over the very actual of our thought to a device, a result of mental muscles that go slack. We're losing the quiet confidence of knowing we can figure these things out on our own, and it is the place of low-grade anxiety and the constant need of external validation. This is a crisis of human spirit. Now, the other team might also mention again about like things like we used to do like farming, for example, and for instance, and while exactly this kind of farming doesn't just include the physical one, where humans don't really depend on much of these machines. They can do by themselves. That's the first thing. And the second thing, that they're going to rely much on artificial intelligence to come up with all of these solutions. What is going to be the new plant, and what is going to be the suitable one for this climate or this specific place? If they don't do that in the first place, we wouldn't even have this problem to solve. Now, next is the wilderness. We're on one glitch away from chaos, and isn't abstract. The mechanism is the catastrophic convenience. We've wired our entire survival, our food, power, and money into beautifully efficient but terrifying fragile digital system. A single cyber attack on a logistic algorithm doesn't mean a latte package. It means the empty grocery shelf in 3 days. A solar flare doesn't mean no internet. It means no one can buy food or get their paycheck. And third of all is the howling out. We're trading mastery for a digital crumple. This is a drive of practical dignity. The mechanism is the loss of neck. It is the slow, shameful realization that you cannot cook a meal without a recipe app, cannot fix a googly chair, can't even have a difficult conversation without a screen to hide behind. We are becoming the managers of our life, not living them. So this dependence isn't making life richer, making us poorer in both knowledge, skills, and also dependency. So in conclusion, the negative team fails to attack one of our main point or to solve one of the main problem here, who are in control. So that is the MA speech. I believe my team should win this debate. Thank you.
Thank you for a great speech. Now inviting the last speaker of today's debate.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, camera. All right. So, hello everyone, judges and members of the house. Good evening. As a third speaker, upside negative, my job today is simple. Crush the other side's main case by showing that discouraging essential technological dependence does far more than harm than good. Rebuild and amplify our team's story that efficiency tech is the backbone of prosperity, tech compatibility, and human autonomy. Lastly, frame the debate so you can clearly see why we win this debate. So, moving on to my rebuttals. First of all, dependence is dangerous. Society becomes fragile. Other side wants to scare you with the idea that if technology fails, society collapses. But this logic is backwards. Technological failure is dangerous because efficiency tech is foundational, and the solution to foundation risk is not discouraging use but securing it. Our world runs on electricity, internet, logistic algorithms, medical automation, not because we're lazy, but because those systems prevent payment, prevent disease, and prevent mismanagement. Their world, where governments discourage reliance, means hospitals going back to paper records, schools abandoning online tools, rural economies losing access to digital banking, logistics slowing down, making food shortages, governments unable to coordinate emergencies quickly. You can't build resilience by making society weaker. You build resilience by supporting, upgrading, and securing the technologies we rely on. Secondly, humans lose skills and autonomy when they rely on tech. This claim sounds nice, but collapses instantly. Efficiency tech actually increases autonomy. Why? Because autonomy is not about doing everything manually. It's about having more capacity to choose what to do. When GPS exists, you have the autonomy to travel, not less. When translation tools exist, you can communicate with more people, not fewer. When automation exists, workers can take better jobs instead of exhausting repetitive labor. If the other side believes that dependency reduces autonomy, then using a calculator is a loss of autonomy. Relying on Google Maps is a loss of autonomy. Online education is a loss of autonomy. No, these are spent opportunities. Other side is confusing skill replacement with freedom reduction, and those two are not the same. Lastly, discouraging dependence will create healthier citizens, more mindful people. This is romanticization, not policy. If the government discourages essential dependence, what does it look like? First of all, discouraging digital medical scanners turn to slower diagnosis. Discouraging online
UI.
services to yes, be quick.
Okay, so like, yeah, we actually agree that technologies make people life more easier, but isn't that is fundamentally creating a moral hazard? So by making things too easy, are we incentivizing the neglect of the robust non-digital system necessary for the national resilience when that single easy system inevitable
Too
fails?
long, sorry. Discouraging online services turns into bureaucratic lines everywhere. Discouraging automation turns into a slower economy. Discouraging AI planning tools turns to worse urban design. Discouraging online commerce turns into rural communities cut off. So they are not building mindfulness, they're building inefficiency. No one becomes healthier because a form is filled manually instead of digitally. Efficiency tech saves millions of hours and millions of lives. Giving that up does not create well-being, it destroys it. Onto reviewing and strengthening our case, our first speaker showed you that every modern welfare state relies on efficiency technologies. Slowing efficiency means slower economy, turns to lower tax revenue, and turns to weaker welfare systems. Vulnerable groups benefit the most from efficiency, the elderly, the disabled, and rural citizens. The other side gave no meaningful response, if vague fear-mongering. So efficiency tech is not a luxury, it is a backbone of medicine, logistics, governance, and education. This direction is equivalent to deliberately slowing down GDP, increasing cost of living, widening inequality. This is the opposite of good governance. So moving on to our second speaker. So we showed you that in a world of fast-moving economies, the faster nations win the supply chains. The more efficient nations wins global markets. The more automated nations protect national security. The other side never answer this. If governments discourage efficiency, you hand victory to competitors. This is a geopolitical suicide move. So onto a clash. The main clash today is should governments discourage essential dependence on efficiency technologies? So we win this because other side cannot prove harm from dependence. They only assume it. Dependence on electricity, sanitation, or digital infrastructure hasn't destroyed autonomy. It has built civilization. Secondly, we provide a better alternative. We solve the concerns without destroying efficiency. Thirdly, their world is poorer, slower, and less competitive and less safe. They trade imaginary benefits for real losses. Lastly, time horizons in magnitude. Efficiency affects every citizen every day. Discouraging it harms millions immediately and permanently. So in conclusion, government should not discourage the technologies that make society richer, safer, faster, more capable, and more autonomous. Dependency is not the enemy here. Poor governance is. Efficiency is not a threat. It is the lifeblood of modern civilization. For all those reasons above, we are proud to oppose. Next time, please ask me what I showed.
Thank you for your great speech. Now inviting the reply speaker from opposition.
Okay. So am I audible?
Yes.
So my speech starts 3, 2, 1. So as a reply speaker of today's debate, I'm just standing here to explain why our team solely wins this debate. So everything that the affirmative claims is just a fantasy. Why? How can y'all reconcile every single person benefit this world? We are building our lives on secure. How could the affirmative team think that reconciling every single person is better than just letting technology increase and make reconciling better? We are not saying that we should be completely dependent, like I claimed in my arguments. We are just saying that we should let technology help us in the goals that we are already in. We're taking a leap of faith here. If we lose it, we can still try. If we lose it, we can still try again. While the affirmative team, not while the affirmative world, not only are they missing out, but they also but they are also reconciling their kids and just living in the old school way. This is the new generation. This is the new generation of technology. We should overall not discourage. The government should not overall not discourage technology. As governments around the world are already paying to develop technologies themselves. So why should they discourage the thing that they are already developing in the first place? So here are the reasons why our team takes the debate for today's debate. Firstly, we open up on more innovative solutions. So with by governments not letting us not hindering the fact that we should depend on AI. We should depend on technology that helps us increase efficiency for better effectiveness. Not only does the government benefit from the technologies, but also everything in our side. Our world lets people live their life with better technology. Whilst in the affirmative side, they not only don't take the risk, but they are also losing out. They are getting old school. They are getting old school in the digital world. The digital world, we are getting into a new digital era. So it's just right that we overall just the not essentially depend, but we overall use technology more and use it more in our lifestyles. The affirmative is just imagining a fantasy here. Right? We are not uneducated because of artificial intelligence, but because it's simply just human nature. The human nature for greed, the human sin of greed is the reason why we think AI is bad. These people tend to just do something bad and then blame it on the thing that they're using for, without accounting the fact some of them are unable to blame themselves for doing something and instead and insist on blaming others. That is how most AI scandals are taking place, and that is how the affirmative are using them to put an example to their arguments. So the second reason why our team wins, our examples are actually used in real life. The world, most of the world has induced a lot of technology that improve our efficiency. So why should governments just discourage the thing that they're already doing for? not only are the government missing out, but governments also have to have more on their hands. As technology solves a lot of problems that the government has done. Governments have invested a lot of money in technology, so why should that be removed anyway? So overall, with these reasons above, I hope that the judge may fall into the negative side. Thank you.
Can I start my speech now?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. So my speech would like to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, and my respected opponents. So this debate has centered on a fundamental tension, the tension between efficiency and resilience. The negative has been utterly consistent. They are willing to accept maximum risks in exchange for maximum inconvenience. Our side, as the affirmative, stands for a more responsible long-term vision. We demand resilience first, because the unchecked efficiency is nothing more than fragility in disguise. So now, let's just talk about the clash and the burden. So the clash in this debate is clear. The negative believe the pursuit of economic ease should defy systemic risks, while we believe the government's primary duty is to safeguard autonomy and stability. So the opposition's central argument is that technology makes our life easier, and we should let technology help us. But the negative has failed spectacularly to address the biggest burden, providing a mechanism to mitigate the risks and of essential dependence. So they admitted that dependence is an issue and claimed they could use regulation to fix people, not to stop them from using technology. But regulation only works if society has an alternative. If we are essentially dependent on one corporation platform for, say, the electricity grid management, the regulation has no leverage. They can only negotiate, not walk away. The negative is asking us to trust that a fragile single point of failure system can be made resilient through paperwork. We say that is utterly naive. And now, talking about our biggest benefits, what do we bring to this world? So our side delivers two profound benefits that a negative team cannot touch. Firstly is the systemic resilience that I asked our first arguments. So we introduce a low-tech floor beneath the high-tech ceiling. It is our insurance policy. The negative laughed and calls this costly, but we proved it is an essential cost of doing business for a modern state. They failed to acknowledge that the cost of maintaining a physical ship or training pilots is a celestial navigation is investmentally small compared to the cost of a single nationwide collapse caused by a cyber attack on monolithic efficient system. As we say, efficiency is not resilience. And secondly, human autonomy, as our second arguments, will protect the core cognitive capabilities of the system. The negative simply claim they must fit the people before the system, which is the perfect inverse of the truth. The system is what breaks the people. The mandating essential dependence, the system costs skill atrophy, which show that trading the short-term convenience of GPS for the long-term cost of the losing of the ability to think and navigate. The essential dependence is skill atrophy is a profound loss of human agency. Now, let's address the specific failures of the opposition's bans. So they claim that it can enable us to get a basic economics. Yes, efficiency enables growth, but the negative provides no mechanisms to stop that growth from making the economy naturally collapse. So our policy accepts a tiny margin of efficiency to ensure the whole economy doesn't vanish overnight due to a systemic failure. So we are safeguarding the economy, not stopping it. And also claim that we must fix the people before the system. But this is a failed economy. So our policy fix the system by mandating alternative, which turns faces to the people by preserving the necessary non-dependent skills through our education and pursuance policies. The negative approach is to simply watch and wait for human capability to degrade. And also we as so our work is generally understood to be realistic, not idealistic, because it race based on fixed, measurable natural laws and characterized by inherent limitation, conflicts, and imperfection that prevent achievement of perfect utopian conditions. And also, as our team have more impact because we actually provide a clear mechanism, clear the model, and also our examples are like more clear and like more realistic than the other team. And also, in conclusion, the negative has offered a simple comfort to the status quo, maximum convenience with maximum risks. The affirmative has offered the necessary responsible governance that protects against the future shock. We ask you to judge this debate not on which system it is, but on which system is the most sustainable, resilient, and protective of human autonomy. And that's the end of my speech. Thank you for listening, and I yield my time.
Okay, thank you for one speech. Now I'll give you a few minutes to do my adjudication. Okay, so can I confirm both team is here?
Yeah.
Okay then. So I'm just going to start my adjudication. First, my adjudication is going to have three parts. Firstly, the overall. Secondly, the individual, and the verdict. So, firstly, is the overall round feedback. First is that some of you guys misunderstand the motion. So, firstly, you guys act as the motion is not about banning technology, limiting phones users, stop innovation, slowing down progress, or prevent digitalization. This debate is about whether governments should actively discourage society from becoming a reliance on highly efficient technology that people cannot function without them. So most speakers did not actually engage with essential dependence, which is a core debate. Instead, many drift into technology good versus the bad, which is not the motion. Moving on to the second part is individual. First, for proposition, for speaker of proposition, their strength is to attempt to define the essential dependence and set the moral framing around autonomy. You introduce the idea that society becomes fragile when too efficient texts become mandatory. But the weaknesses is that you fail to clear the categories of technology, AI decisions making, autonomy, digital ID infrastructure, and smart logistic. Mechanisms are unclear and too genetic. Firstly, governments should discourage is not enough. So you argue that technology harm instead of independence harm itself. Firstly, is that you give a precise of definition. Essential independence, losing the ability to function or maintain the autonomy without certain tech. Using case studies, for example, the hospital reliance on AI analysis, cloud infrastructure, controlling government's operation. You provide a clear mechanism of education, reliance, investing, and maturity of human training, alternative protocol. Second speaker proposition. Your strength is to strengthen the harm analysis, societal fragility of economy losses, expand long-term systematic risks. But there are major misunderstanding. You argue that technology increase harm, not the independence because harmful. The large portal of contents repetitive of the first speaker without adding new reasoning. You lack the comparative analysis. Why is the independence worse than efficiency, and why this efficiency gain is sufficient? And you not actually engage with the OO of strongest angle. The efficiency will equal the better outcomes plus potentially. Move on to last speaker of proposition team. Firstly, you have clear framing of the first speaker and second speaker of your team. You try to establish your main clashes in autonomy and efficiency. First, you summarize the argument, not deeply development, which weakens the impact. Firstly, you're not attacking the opposition actual strongest ground. Firstly, the efficiency creates resilience. Independence is available and manageable. Policy to discourage is a panelists, underweighting our service level. Move on to opposition team first speaker. Russian to challenges the feasibility and the desirability of government discourages the essential dependence and you recognize the importance of efficiency for progresses. But you misunderstand the motion is that you treat the motion as this house would ban or reduce use of technology, and you do not defend the essential dependence, which is your core burden. Instead, you defend technology is good, which is not the same. You have no engagement with the info slide of definition of essential dependence and no word building of what independence look in the world. Move on to second speaker of opposition. You attempted to introduce more sector, medicines, and economy better than the opposition want to recognize how efficient help the society function smoothly. You continue to misunderstand emotion. You did not build the model for why independence is acceptable and why contradict yourself by saying people don't depend, but also dependence is fine. You fail to directly attack the harm of sexual independence, the core of the prop cases. First, you need to build these strong conceptual arguments. Independence is progress. Human civilization has always learned tool, essential independence to free up people time and capability. Move on to the last speaker of this debate, the third speaker opposition. So you have the best grab of the emotion on opposition side. You try to force the debate into a clear comparison, efficiency versus the autonomy, but you fix the emotion too late. For example, the early speaker already built the wrong framework, so the whole case was weakened. So you did not clearly identify why the efficiency outweighed the resilience concept, and you define the general tech useful, not the essential defense specifically. And you had to improve here is that where the impact properly, efficiency produce the constant of guarantee benefits, and why the attack prop model is it's limiting the human advantages. So the overall feedback for the proposition team is that the major problem here is that you have the weak mechanism, for example, and limited comparative analysis, and to focus on technology bad instead of independence harm. For opposition, you have a good defensive vision and inefficiency, but you defend the entire case foundationally misunderstand emotion, and why you defending on technology, not essential independence, and fail to engage with autonomy and fragility. So for the overall verdict, the winning team goes to the proposition team. Best speaker for opposition is Tom, and best speaker for proposition is Abby. So
which is the winning team?
Winning team is proposition.
Like affirmative?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, if no one have any question else, we can then spade. So the debate is ended. Thank you for guys and goodbye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.